This is the automation zone. In today's tutorial, we'll learn what is a class, what is an object, and what are instance variables of my objects. Now, before we go ahead and see the definition of a class, let us first learn how to create a class. To create a class, use a keyword class. This has to be followed by the name of your class. Here I'm going to create the class called employee. Remember to keep the first character of your class as uppercase. This is not mandatory, but it is preferred to do so. You end this with a colon. Now a class should at least have one mandatory line. Now this being our first tutorial, we'll create an empty class. We'll do this by using the keyword called pass. Pass tells Python to basically skip that particular line. Now that we have created a class, we'll learn how to use the class by creating objects. To create an object, you first take a variable and you assign the variable to your class name. You follow this with a parenthesis. In this way, I have created an object A of my class employee. Note that I can create as many objects as I want. I am only bounded by the memory of my computer. The other thing to note is this, that let me first assign proper values to my objects. Now the other thing to note is both of my objects will be unique to each other, although they belong to the same class. Let us look at the definition of a class now. A class is a blueprint or a factory which creates objects as per that blueprint. Now, employee here can be considered as a factory which creates objects called employees. And therefore, this particular factory of employee can create as many objects or as many employees as I want. In this way, the definition that many of us have learned, which is a collection of objects is a class, is wrong. A collection of pencils is not a pencil factory. If I consider pencil factory as a class, then pencils here are objects, and definitely each pencil is unique from each other. Now we've learned how to create a class. We have learned what are objects of my class. Let us prove that they are unique from each other. Let me go ahead and print both of my objects. By default, when you print an object, it will print the address of my object. If you look at the console, both the addresses are different from each other. Now that said, we'll now learn what are instance variables. Instances basically are objects of my class. So employee1 is an object of my class. I can also call it as instance of my class employee. So I can just replace instance with object. So what are object variables? A variable is just, to create a variable, what we do is we take a name such as A and we assign it to a particular value. So A variable holds a value 10. In order to create an object variable, what we'll do is we'll take the object such as employee1, we'll do a dot, and then we'll assign the variable that we want. And let me assign this to 20. Let me assign a variable or an instance variable for my other object as well. Let me go ahead and print this. This will prove our earlier statement. Now I said that employee1 is unique to employee2. Therefore, objects contained in variables contained in the object employee1 will be unique from employee2. So employee1.h should be unique from employee2.h, or they should not interfere from each other. Let me go ahead and print both of them. So I'm printing out employee1.age and I'm printing out employee2.age, and as you see down below is 20 and 30, hence they are unique from each other. Now we have learned everything. Remember a few important points. Point number 1, just because I have created age parameter for my object 1 of my employee, it does not mean that the other object should also have the same parameter or the same variable. Example, let me go ahead and create a name variable for my employee 1. Let me assign it as Tom, and let me go ahead and print the exact same thing. So employee1 dot name, but I have not created the variable called name for employee2. So when I run it, it should throw me an error that employee has no attribute called name. So make a note of this. Just because one object will have certain variables or instance variables, it does not mean that the other object should also have it. This way of assigning variables after the object is created is called as manual assignment. Okay, that said, if you have any questions in this session, do comment below. If I'm not able to help you, I'll create a video of the same thing in order to explain the same question. If you like this video, do like, subscribe and share to this channel. Thank you.